we got to mix the mission statement with the idea that everything is relevant. Our stand-up is relevant. Living in New York is relevant because it's all how to deal with day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Is that generally it? Yeah. The littlest things in the world can like ruin your whole outlook on life just because of one day when it's really not that big of a deal. But we've got to find a way to like deal with our fucking anger, basically.
Yeah.
Welcome to The Power of How. I'm Matt Fulcheron. I'm here with Daniel Torado. I'm here with Brennan Tassif.
What's up?
And we're frauds.
Yeah.
We're talking about positivity. All we're bringing is negativity to the table, quite literally this morning. Everybody's had a shit morning. I had a night into a morning where I compartmentalize my day. In the morning, I don't like to talk. I like to write.
Yeah.
Catch me in the afternoon after I've swam some laps, after I've gotten some work done. I'm a joy. Then after around 8, 9 o'clock, I don't want to think about work. I don't want to talk about work. I don't even want to talk about chores or scheduling, anything. I want to turn it off. I casually mentioned to my wife last night that we shot. She's like, "Hey, was the dresser in the shot? Did it look good?" I'm like, "Oh, it wasn't in the shot. We shot this way to there." She was like, her head exploded. She was like,
"Don't worry, the dresser wasn't in the shot."
She was like, "The apartment." She was like, "The apartment, what?"
I love how she wanted that dresser on in the shot.
Well, she didn't want it in the shot. It's new, and this is like literally a facade on top, a veneer on top of a facade. This isn't screwed in. All right, and in a way, it's my fault because I am the man of the house. But also, she's the one that put it together. So, but she just got right there, and then this will fall out so easily. It doesn't slide or open or anything.
Oh, it just falls.
It just falls right out, which the downstairs neighbors love.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, I just start thinking, man, it's like tomorrow morning. It was already a juggling act because I got to move my car before. Like during this podcast.
Yeah.
So there's you get ticketed from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, and we're doing the podcast at noon.
Yeah.
And I gotta wake up. It sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but such is life. Wake up, make sure all this equipment's set up. I mean, look at this fucking bowl of spaghetti over here. This is a nightmare to put together. And I'm out of practice, so I'm just looking at wires like, where does that and what does that? Make sure the apartment's clean. She did most of the work, let's be honest. Go down and move the car and just hope to put it in I got two choices. I could put it in a parking lot across the street and hope it doesn't get towed, which it probably wouldn't, but if it fucking does.
That's a whole thing.
I don't roll with probablys. I roll with best case scenario, worst case scenario. And worst case scenario is I'm going to drop like $350 calling around. They don't even tell you where it goes, you know. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to park it in a less traveled street because sometimes that works. So I go down to the street and I'm just boxed the fuck in. I got like an inch to each bumper, you know, and I never even drive this car, but I'm moving it twice a week. And I do like a 50-point turn, roll over and around, and as luck would have it, somebody pulls out on a Friday spot, and I parallel park that motherfucker, and I'm good. And the sad part is I was still pissed.
Yeah.
I was still pissed. I got to roll up to the apartment and get everything ready for the podcast still, like the little nooks and crannies and stuff. And I don't have the right mentality today. I can't get out of it. A lot of it has to do with the fact that I didn't get to do my writing in the morning helps me. I go from this, how am I going to get through today? To the point like 3 pages later, I remind myself all the good things I have in my life and all the reasons why I can enjoy the day. And then I get some work done. Then I go to the pool, hopefully meditate in there somewhere, and then I'm fucking good. But it's the daily battle, and when I skip the exercises, I'm in trouble. But goddamn, I feel better telling you guys.
That is something I noticed when because I have a routine every morning, And when I get out of that routine, it'll just eat away at it's the dumbest stuff. It's like I get up, I say my prayers, it's an AA thing, and then I go to the gym and I work out for like 2 or 3 hours, and then I come home and I'm good.
Yeah.
But like even yesterday, I was like, I got a lot to do in the morning. I'll work out at night. And I was just running on like hot the whole day.
Yeah.
And then I went to the gym at night, and it's packed because it's all the 9-to-5ers go at like 6.
I did the same thing.
I was like, so the whole day I'm like teetering on like explosion.
Yeah.
And then when I go to the gym that night, last night I was just like, I guess I'm just gonna burn this place down. Like I don't know what the answer is.
That's the only solution.
Yeah, I was like, okay, but luckily there was a guy there who was in the squat rack, and he's like, hey man, do you want to work in? And I was like, thank God. I was like, yes, absolutely.
That's
so
like
ended up working out.
That's like your free parking spot. That's like your Friday parking spot.
Yeah, when someone's like, hey, jump in with me, man, and I'm like, all right, cool.
You gotta play the game. Like it sucks. Like I could have just stayed in bed and said, fuck it, I'll get a ticket. But it worked out. Yeah. Through sheer stress, it worked out. And that's what's sad about modern life. We all know that we need to slow down, but it's like, what day works with that? Yeah. There's so much to do. I mean, especially if you're unemployed like me, that's when you have to work the hardest. Is when you're unemployed, dude. Like you've got to bet on like 5 horses all of a sudden.
Something hits.
When you have a job, all you have to do is like kind of just show up and be there. Yeah.
Isn't that weird how we just feel like we never have the time? It's insane. It's like again, I have when I was single, I never had enough time. And then when you have a girlfriend, you don't have enough time. You have less time. Mm-hmm. And then when you have a kid, you even have less time. And when you have 2 kids, you have even less time. When you have 3 kids, you're like, what's the point of my existence? Like, why am I even here? Because you're not even living for yourself. You're just living. You're no longer the priority in your own life, which is messed up. Because at least when you have a girlfriend or you're married, you're the kind of the priority in that person's life. Mm-hmm. But then you just get erased when you have kids. Yeah. And so I don't think the issue is that we don't have enough time. I think that time is just like, time doesn't even exist. It's like just like a measure that man created. But I'm thinking of that story. There's this great story of, I'll parallel it with a story of space. There's these, a man's married, he has kids, and he has his in-laws coming over. And he's like, man, I need my space. My in-laws, I live in like a 2-bedroom apartment. I can't, I got to sleep on the couch. I'm in the living room. My in-laws just take too much space. I don't know what to do. I have no more space. And so he goes to see Buddha, and Buddha says, like, what do I do? Like, I know you have this gorgeous, this amazing formula, or I know you can help me. Tell me what to do. And then he says, all right, I want you to get some chickens. He's like, what? It's like, all right, just get some chickens and bring them home. Like live chickens? Like, yeah, live chickens. I was like, all right. So he brings like these live chickens. He's like, I don't know what the hell he's telling me to do, but I'm just trusting it's Buddha. I'm not going to question Buddha.
Right, yeah.
So he has these these chickens staying at his place. And then he's going nuts, man, because he's got his in-laws and he's got chickens.
Now he's got chickens.
Right. So then he's like, all right, I'm losing my mind. Let's go see Buddha. All right, I have the chickens. Now what do I do? Do I cook them? Like, do I eat them? And he says, no, now I want you to get like a couple of cats. It's like on top of the kitchen, the chickens. Like, yeah, just get cats. It's like, all right, I'm not going to question Buddha. So he brings like chickens, and he's got cats, and he's living with cats like for a few days, and chickens, and he's going nuts, man. He's losing his mind. Yeah. He's like, this is insane. He goes to see Buddha again. Like, what do I do? What do I do now? It's like, all right, I want you to get dogs too. It's like, are you crazy? He's like, just trust me, just get dogs. So he gets dogs. He's living with dogs and cats and chickens, and then he's about to lose his mind. He goes to see him one last time. He says, I want you to get goats. Just go get a couple of goats. I want you all live together. And he says, this is the last one. He says, all right. So he's living with goats, cats, dogs, and chickens. He's about to lose his mind. He goes back. He's not even thinking of his in-laws anymore. He says, now what do I do, Buddha? He says, I want you to get rid of all of the animals and go back home. gets rid of the cats, the chickens, the dogs, the goats. He's just got his in-laws. And he's like, he goes back to Buddha. It's like, Buddha, thank you. Got so much space now. I have so much freedom to do whatever I want. The space was always there. It was the same exact space, just a completely different perspective. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what we have to do with time. You know, we constantly say we don't have any time, and the amount of time that we do lose on nothingness, on television or social media, especially, or worrying, or feeding ourselves with like rotten shit. That occupies so much of our space and time, and I think the key is to maximize and do everything fully that is nourishing to, you know, our spirit and bodies, and not waste any time just. And it's hard. I think that's the hardest thing.
Yeah, and also what happens to all the chickens, cats, dogs, and goats? They're out there on their own now, just so you can feel better.
Well, they're free. They're free range.
At least eat them or something.
But it's
that would be fucking great.
Right.
Murder them in front of your in-laws. They'll never come over again. I think
that would be the best. That would be a better version than Buddha.
You did this.
But look at the space. Are you happy now, in-laws?
Yeah.
Sorry, Daniel, you were onto something.
No, the blood is good.
And it gets rid of like the angel of death too. There's blood on the door now. You know, just to mix in some Christianity.
Right.
And Judaism, I think.
Passover, yeah. They pass over the house. I think it's important too. This is something that I never realized until recently, like in the last 5 or 6 years, is to schedule, because I'm a big schedule person, is to schedule time to do nothing. Because what'll happen is I will get super angry and resentful if I'm like, okay, I got to wake up, I got to go to the gym, and then we're going to record a podcast. Then I have to, I'm cutting up the one-man show. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And then next thing you know, it's like 6 o'clock, and I'm like, well, now I have to go down to one of the clubs to hang and try and book people for my other podcast. And then the day is gone. And I'm like, I had 2 days off in a row, and I did all this stuff for me, technically, but I didn't do anything I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So what I've been doing recently, and I want to get both your opinions on this, if this is laziness or if this is like a misappropriation of time. But what I have been doing is, at least on one of my days off, I will block out like 4 hours or 3 hours and just be like, this is me. Like, I'm not going to go on a date. I'm not going to go like hang out with anybody. Like, this is the time where if I just want to sit and watch a show, like 2 episodes of a show, or if I just want to like dick around and go to Central Park and just wander around, this is the time I blocked out for that. Because if I don't literally block out that time, I'll just never have it. And then after 2 weeks, I'm pissed off at the fact that I haven't done anything I've wanted to do personally, and then I'm like snapping at people at work, or I'm snapping to like, I'm talking to this very nice young lady, and she'll be like, oh, let's hang out. I'm like, I don't fucking wanna. Like, no. So do you guys think that's a misappropriation of time? Should it just be like, well, the stuff you schedule should be work, and then if you have free time, you have free time? Or do you think it's like...
That's obviously the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Is to schedule at least an hour to yourself every day. But we're Americans, goddammit.
I know.
And that's not a priority. And if people hear about that shit, they're like, you're doing what?
That's the thing.
On a weekday?
That's the thing that bothered me was I've been doing that for like the last 2 months, and then last week I had to go pick some stuff up from the old apartment, and I told Savannah, I was like, all right, well, I'll come at like 3:30. And she was like, oh, you can't come any earlier? And I go, well, I'll be done with the gym around noon, but I'm going to take like 2 hours to kind of reset. And she was like, no, you're going to come to the house around noon and pick up the stuff. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm coming around noon to pick up the stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. The problem is we will prioritize everything but us. I remember reading a book called Automatic Millionaire. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's just they teach you how to become a millionaire.
Of course they do.
I never finished the book.
We're going to talk about self-help books today, and that's what most of them are like.
Right.
Hey, I can make you the most extreme fucking thing ever. I can make you a millionaire. How are you a millionaire? Oh, by selling a book called How to Be a Millionaire.
Right. But there's one thing that I really loved about the book, and he says, like, you know, when we get our paycheck, we pay everything. We pay the food, we pay the bills, like electricity, the car, the rent. But he says the first thing you got to pay is yourself. The first person you pay before paying anyone, it could be like 1% of your salary. It could be like $10. It could be 20. It could be whatever you want it to be. But the first person you pay is yourself. So in the same way, like, I think you are the priority. If you don't take that 1 hour a day or half hour or 2 hours, whatever it is, and prioritize everything, then we will all do things with like a shitty energy as opposed to like getting that balance and just like going from there. I think it's key. It's key to just, and I think it's weird when you said, I wanted to have time to do nothing, but I think the hardest thing to do is to do everything with a dance. Like, do everything artfully. Like, when you clean the dishes, you find a way to, like, Osho was very controversial after that documentary.
I didn't see it.
What was it called?
I can't remember the name of it, but I know what you're talking
Win
about.
something. I forget. So Osho was this Indian guru, very controversial with the way he lived, but he never wrote books, but he had discourses, and they were turned into books. And those books it's like some of the most powerful things you'll ever read. It's mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. So I've been like reading his stuff for 25 years. And he says he talks a lot about creativity. And he says you don't have to, creativity isn't necessarily like has to do with art necessarily, but you can find the art in everything you do. Mm-hmm. It could be sweeping. Sweeping could just become a dance, and doing the dishes and making your bed, and the little things that we find tedious and annoying, turn it into something.
I can see why that's controversial.
Right.
We've talked about that before. It's the attitude you bring to whatever you're doing.
Yeah,
like if you're gonna, and we've discussed that on this show for sure. It's like if you're gonna go in and have a shitty attitude, you're gonna have a shitty day. That's why at work, it's a big running joke. But at work, every shift when I go in, I'm like Mr. Pop. I'm like, what's up? We're gonna kill it tonight. Time to kick the tires and light the fires. Let's go. Let's make that money, baby. And then about an hour in, I'm like, where the fuck is my money?
Right? Where's my money?
Yeah.
I think the key is to do everything with nothing in your mind.
Yeah, that's
as opposed to just finding time to do nothing. You know what I mean?
That's the way to do it.
Yeah,
and
that makes so much more sense.
It's really goddamn hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard to do that. I find I can do that on a day where, what a good day for me is like maybe the second day of a road gig, where I'm not sick of being in the town yet. Yeah. I got a hotel room to myself. I wake up, start writing, start getting all these things done, got some solitude. That I can find the joy. And there's just some days where it works, where you're just really, everything's clicking. I find when you really get some creative work done, that is such a good feeling. It carries with you through to doing the dishes. But when you and vice versa, it's hard to get any creative work done when your house doesn't look good.
Like your space is so key.
Yeah,
so important.
Because the outer is, I believe, a truer reflection of the inner.
Yeah.
So whatever space you live in just reflects like what's going on inside. And if
Look
you
good,
see that,
feel good, baby.
Yeah.
I saw this. I only watched like 20 seconds of it. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. It's like how to have a shitty life. Have you seen this one?
They just interview any New Yorker.
I'm like, I'm listening. And I click on it. And they're really telling you how to have a positive life. But they're doing it through sarcasm. And it's pretty much like ridicule. It was like, first thing to make sure you have a shitty life, wake up and don't take a shower and wear the clothes you were wearing the day before. That's sure to put you in a good mood. And I was just like, click. Like, click, I get what you're doing, but I don't appreciate your tone. All right, you're trying to say something positive with some serious fucking attitude and negativity, dude. So I ain't watching your shit. But I still get the whole idea of the video. It's like, wake up, act like a soldier. Like, act like you're in the military.
Or prison.
Have a routine. Or prison. Shave. Get your fade tightened up. Like Brennan. Make your bed. Do your dishes. Do your work. Do your exercise. I'm sure that's what the video was going to say. And I'm lucky I'm intelligent, so I don't have to watch the whole fucking train wreck of that video.
I got to see that video now.
Yeah, but it's very popular, and it had a lot of views, and it had a lot of like good images and stuff. It was shot well.
Oh, was it?
And it was actually written well, and it's actually a great point. But just fuck off.
Yeah, with that tone. Right. I find that super fascinating. The thing about the creativity. So last night I got the first rough cut of the first show from the one-man show. My editor sent the turnover time was impeccable. Because remember, we lost the hard drive. Oh, FedEx lost the hard drive. The whole thing happened. So I had to remail it. He got it Monday and then had the first show edited and like ready to go. Like as far as a rough cut, sent to me yesterday. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And shout out to Joe Dorville. He's fantastic. The way he did the editing, he turned a 2-camera shoot into like 6 angles.
Really?
Yeah. That's what he went to school for, and that's what you expect from a good editor.
Yeah.
But because he's my friend and he's doing it at a friends and family rate, I wasn't, I know he's very good, but I wasn't expecting a ton. And then when he sent it to me, I was like, dude, this is the rough cut? Like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But on that creativity note, I watched it last night when I had, because a lot of the time that I have to do, especially stuff with stand-up or the podcast or whatever, is late night. When I get home and no one else is awake, no one else is bothering me.
Right.
And I watched it, and it was awesome. And I was like crying again, even though it's my show and I wrote it. I'm like crying watching it.
I get this guy.
And but I was so hyped up about like all the possibilities and the creativity and everything just kind of swirling around that I was like, I probably should have watched this in the morning when I had the day, because now it's like 1 a.m. and I'm like, and I have to be up at 7 to get to the gym before we record, and I'm like, I'm not going to bed for a while because I was just so amped up. And that's the thing, is just being around or a part of something, because we're all creative, so being around something that is like something that you're making, it's like, it's a beautiful thing. And it's just like, I like, we did this, but I did this. Like, this is, without everything that we put into it, this doesn't happen. And now I'm watching it, and these angles are cut. And this sounds stupid to the listeners, because when anybody watches like a commercial or whatever, you just watch it and you go, oh, that was kind of cool. But as people who have had to learn how to do all this with how comedy is nowadays, we can watch it and be like, oh, how did he, like, what the hell? Like, I didn't even know that the camera had that angle. Like, how did he do that? Yeah. And I was just so grateful and just blown away by it. And that, oh man, that juiced me up. I was up till like 4 o'clock last night. Like, I'm like, just getting ready for all the different stuff for it. But that's the thing, is doing something creative can also just propel you for hours, if not days.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, it just feeds you so much happiness. Yeah. Like nothing, my buddy, Dave, he's in a band called Chromeo, very successful. And I'm working on a music album, and he tells me, your shot of ever getting your music, heard again, like 60,000 songs get uploaded on Spotify a day. A day? A day.
I believe it.
A day. Yeah. And he says, your shot of making it in the music business is like throwing a bottle in the ocean and hoping it's going to come back to you. He says, just do it for the joy and pleasure and happiness and peace it brings you, because that's the best feeling. The rest is just extra. And so when you see your own work, how rewarding that is, how that gives you like the strength to just move forward. And not only are you sharing that with everyone, but it's like it just feeds you to just like just another day.
Well, and also there's this weird thing that happens where if you, I told an ex-girlfriend one time, because she was looking for a job and she was getting really frustrated, but she was a screenwriter. And I'm like, look, this is going to sound crazy. I know it's crazy. And you can just forget about this and just don't take this advice if you don't want to. But I'm like, I find if I sit down and send emails all day about work, can I play your club? Can I play your comedy club? Can I play your comedy club? Nothing happens. But if I sit down and start working on my jokes, people start calling me.
Yeah.
And it's a double whammy. One is like maybe something spiritual, or the art gods are out there like trying to hook you up. Yes, you've done your work for the day. You deserve to work now. But also it's just like you're not refreshing that goddamn email, which is like when you work freelance, it's like pulling a slot machine lever. It's like, come on, no money, big money, no whammies.
No whammies.
It's crazy what you're saying, because there's
Straight sentence.
I heard this thing. It's mind blowing. There's this French spiritual teacher / philosopher called Franck Lopfe, and he's like, do you know Eckhart Tolle of The Power of Now? You heard of that book?
Power of Now.
Never heard of it. It sounds familiar. It sounds familiar.
Sounds like they're ripping off the Power of Now.
Right. So he's like the French Eckhart Tolle, if you want. And just to your point, it's so true what you're saying, because when you're sending out emails about like book me, can I play your club, you are subconsciously putting that energy that you're constantly reminding yourself at a subconscious level that you don't have it. So you're just telling yourself, I'm not playing that club. I'm not playing that club. Not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At a subconscious level, not a conscious
right.
level. Well, you're aware of it, but the more you put that out, you're putting out more of, I'm lacking energy.
And I want to add one more thing. When you do like hit up clubs, you kind of look at their calendar to see where you fit in,
who the comics,
or who you could open for,
right?
And you're like, they're working, working, that guy's working,
right. and that could be a recommendation.
He's got a weekend.
That could be a recommendation,
and that
could be like a friend. You can find a friend and be like, hey man, can you
I'm talking about an enemy.
Right.
Now we're into the meat and potatoes.
And of course, that's a terrible way to look at it. But, and I know that going in, I'm like, this is going to hurt. Because eventually you do have to send out some emails.
Well, that's what that's the point I wanted to bring up, because what both of you are saying, manifesting that in the universe and putting out your own energy to get it back, tenfold or whatever it sounds great. And this goes back to what we're going to talk about later with the self-help books. But there's that book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which someone got for me. And a lot of the book, I have no problem with it, but a lot of it is like, just don't give a shit and it's going to work out. And I'm like, well, you have to give some sort of shit.
You have to give a shit about not giving a shit.
That's the thing,
yeah.
And that's what I realized is, so my hardest thing, since I got to New York, one of the things I have the biggest problem with is asking to be on shows, because I feel like it's a favor. I feel like I've worked hard enough and I'm good enough to where I should just be asked.
Why would you feel that way? They definitely don't treat you that way.
But I played sports my whole life, so I've always been competitive, where it's like, if you're good, you're good. Like, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Like, if you're the best player, then you're going to play. And art is completely subjective. Unlike sports where it's completely objective, art is subjective. So some people might think you're great and some people might think you suck. And so the whole thing is like, well, you have to reach out. And it's an oversaturation. So you have to reach out. And that's been a problem for me. So I've been of the mindset, like, I'll just work on my stuff and then people will come to me. But then that has a double edge to it, because then sometimes people don't come to you and you're like, why am I here?
Yeah, people don't give a shit about you until you blow up.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I always knew he was great. He was like, I was a fan from day one. Like, where were you day one?
You start getting all these compliments.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I think I think we spoke about this maybe on another episode about just like the insanity of FaceTime. It's just like showing your face.
We did talk about
like, hi, I exist still. I exist.
Right. And then you show up, and then the booker's not there, and you're like, oh, that was a waste of my existence.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
it's happened to me 3 times this last week.
And it's like,
it happens to me every day.
And then it's nuts.
I go to clubs where I'm already past, and I still don't get any attention.
But it's nuts, because it's time that that's what I loved about Montreal. If you did the work, smaller cities, if you do the work, you people will notice you. You'll get stage time. But here, there's such a pool of piranhas where everyone just needs to just show them, just show their face. I'm here. I'm gonna bite you. Like it's like,
I'm here. You see me? You see me?
Right.
You see me?
But it's also become weird that's just like 30% of the game now.
Yeah.
Is getting on stage. That's like
getting on stage. Yeah.
Most of the game now is just
social media,
clogging up that internet,
right?
Man. Woo!
Yeah.
And that is a relentless game because there's always somebody that's going to do more, definitely more than me. I like took a breather maybe a year ago or something, and I haven't fully come back yet. I just find it so. I find myself so miserable.
I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone who feels happy and has a very successful social media unless possibly unless they have someone else running it for them.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that, I don't know one person who doesn't have like 50 or 100,000 followers who are like, I hate social media. I hate social media. They all hate social media. Nobody loves it. So that clearly shows that it's unhealthy.
Right.
And you have to make that decision between advancing your career or sacrificing your state of well-being.
And I think you have to figure that out. I think you have to go, okay, it's like an acceptance thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, because you have to do it to a certain extent, because even Coca-Cola still advertises. So who are you to not advertise? That's insanity.
Yeah. But,
right. No, listen. So it sucks, and you're talking to someone that doesn't even do it anymore. Like, I'm talking to myself as well. It's like there's certain things in life that are miserable. A lot of things are miserable, and you have to kind of accept that it's miserable. And at that point, you can start to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. This is fucking miserable. My suggestion is do it for it's very difficult, is why social media sucks. It's very difficult to do this. Put it out there and log out.
Yeah.
And stop wondering what people think of it, how many likes it gets.
Oh, 100%.
What comments someone's putting out there.
I don't look at that.
Don't look at other shit when you're putting your shit up. It's all very difficult to do, but that is the answer.
And it's incredibly frustrating because there are, whether it's for this show or my other podcast or just stand-up stuff in general, there are clips that I put up on all the platforms. Same clip. I did for our episode 2. Put the clip up on YouTube, 1,500 views. Put the clip up on Instagram, like 12 views. And I'm like, what is happening? And on Instagram, I'm like tagging like you guys, and obviously I have a following, and I'm like tagging the studio and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then on YouTube, I just threw it up. And YouTube, it got 10 times, 100 times, and I'm like, what is, like, why? Why does sometimes I put up a clip of my other show and I put money behind it to promote it, and it gets like 1,200 views, and then I'll just put another clip up of like 2 episodes later and it's like at 15,000 views. I'm like, what is happening?
Well, there's so many different. We always wonder in life, like, what would life be like if I made this decision or that decision?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the different social media platforms are. It's like the same thing with a different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Whatever they're too complicated for us to comprehend.
Yeah.
But YouTube is a different world than Instagram, and that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, Louis C.K. has a great video about social media, and I'm going to paraphrase, but the idea is how insane it is to try to understand AI algorithm. Like how it's just insane to just,
first of all,
try to even why YouTube, why this, why that. It's just it's nonsense. It doesn't make sense to want to try to rationalize this computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you say it like that, it makes so much more sense.
But it's not even like a human being. If you can understand a human being, but then to waste all that energy on this thing,
on this terminal.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, another thing that pops in the head, I saw somebody tweet it out, like, I think we're good on content. Like, you're talking about 60,000 songs on Spotify a day.
Yeah.
The amount of
millions.
Everybody.
Millions.
I go on TikTok. I've started doing TikTok to promote this podcast.
I saw that.
And dude, the average person is smoking me on videos. Like, the average person is putting out some very funny shit. Or maybe it's just the ones I get, because I immediately kind of turn it off.
Yeah.
But every video I happen to see is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I talked to some people who are big on social media, and it's the same thing that you're saying. They're not fans, but they've developed a following. And I'm like, I'm trying to get like more of a social media presence just so I can get more attention from these clubs, because it's like apparently, like we talked about before, it's not It's not just getting on stage and being good, it's everything else now. And they go, yeah, how many clips do you post a day? And I go, well, I do like 3 a week. Like I take, because I'm off on Sundays, I take that time to go through old sets and I cut stuff up, 30 seconds or less. And they go, no. You have to do 3 a day.
Right.
That's so
5
funny.
days a week. You have to post in the morning. There's like all these rules.
Right.
Just to make $35,000 a year.
Yeah, and they obviously know what they're doing because they have all these followers. But at the same time, I'm like,
yes, but they live like this.
I know,
And do you want to live like
absolutely.
this?
I know.
There's always going to be something to. There's always going to be something to sacrifice.
Yep.
And it's bad enough that we're comics. It's bad enough that no, but you know what I mean.
I do. Why do you think I'm laughing?
No, but it's sad enough that every comic is so. That's the dichotomy with a comedian. You have to be extremely insecure to want to be on stage alone with no acting partner, where the lights just shining on you. You're elevated and you're speaking your thoughts.
Anybody talks, they get kicked the fuck out.
Exactly.
I'm talking. Dad's talking.
And yet you have to be so brave to do it. It's like I remember my acting teacher would say about actors, Richard Pinter, brilliant, like a guru of acting. He would say that you have to be like soft iron. You have to be soft and sensitive, but you have to be also strong and that will to go up there. So it's bad enough that we're comic, that we have that level of insecurity, that we're dealing with our own narcissistic wound. On top of that, we got to escalate that to social media and ask the whole world to see us 3 times a day posting like shitty, stupid videos.
Yep.
What do you do for a living?
Right.
They're all fucking your B shit.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to give away the good shit.
Right. And even the good shit you give away, and who gives a shit?
I gave it away
Right.
because you know why I put out my new stand-up now? Just in one place, just on YouTube, just because it only gets so many views. I don't think it's fucking with me. As soon as it gets to be like 10,000, 100,000, I'll be like, well, I won't do that on the special.
Yeah.
But
Right.
for the time being, it's a good video for people to
Right.
watch and maybe get interested in my shit.
Right.
While hundreds and thousands and millions of people are screaming over top of me on the YouTube page. I mean, the amount of shit you can watch on YouTube is awesome. I was thinking about it. I when I can't sleep, I come out, and it's not a good thing to do, but I do it anyway. I just like watch like old David Letterman's and anything with Dave Grohl in it. Like my YouTube's got my number, just like anybody else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I told myself, my like 20-year-old self about this when I used to just watch MTV and hope that the next video was going to be good and just watch and it wasn't good and then just watch and then it wasn't good. Oh, good video. The fact that I can just dial up anything I want to is amazing. In fact, when I was a kid, I used to think that when I went to heaven, I could like go in some room and be like, yo, let me look at, and this is a little bit different, but not really. I'm like, let me watch that Dukes of Hazzard episode from fucking, from the 3rd grade because I don't know how to watch it again, but I want to watch it again. And now my version of heaven is right here. And guess what? It turns out it's fucking hell.
Yeah.
It's hell. It's too much. We have too much.
That's how sneaky the snake is.
Yeah.
You think it's heaven, but it's really hell.
Yeah.
They made an incredibly popular show
Bible
about
verse
that.
about that.
Right. I was going to say The Good Place.
What is that?
What?
Well, spoiler alert if I burned it for you, but the show The Good Place that was on like NBC for 5 or 6 seasons and won all these Emmys. It was huge. And it's a show about the afterlife with Kristen Bell, and the season 3 like big reveal is the good place where they all think they are, which is obviously an analogy to heaven, is actually hell. And it's like masked in this like, oh, everything's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's like these little subtle things that keep going. Like not everything is perfect,
Right.
And it's those things, and this is why the show was so good because it spoke to real life. It's those little things that get you. It's not like the big massive things. It's the little things that tweak you here and there, just so everything doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
And that's that's what we were saying is you think it's heaven, and then the more you look at it, you're like, oh wait, I'm in hell. This is the bad place. This is terrible.
Heaven is more like nothing. Heaven is more like that hour you take for yourself
just
in the
relaxing.
park. you turn your phone off. That's when you really kick in to like the third level of heaven.
Do you guys ever leave
Will you
your
actually
phone?
look at what's that?
Do you ever leave your phone?
Yes.
What do you mean leave your phone?
You can't. You have the kids.
Oh,
but
bro, I wish I could leave my
Yeah.
phone.
Sorry,
It's
that was- I didn't think that all the way
But
through when
so
I
many
asked.
times I just want to leave it back, and then
Sometimes when I go out to smoke, I won't put because I make fun of people on the train or who are in the elevator,
Yeah.
and they're just on. I'm like,
Yeah.
like I'll pull my phone out and change the song or change the podcast, and I have my headphones in, so I'm not, I'm not fully clear to this. But at the same time, it's like, look around you,
Man.
like you live in the greatest city known to humankind.
I know.
and you are staring at your screen.
You can do
all
that
the
in
time.
Iowa.
Yeah. No offense to Iowa.
Yeah.
We love you, Iowa, but let's face it.
right.
You're boring. Yeah, my wife, she is on the phone like all day long, all night long, and I'll be walking down the street with her, and it's to the I've said something before, and it just comes back like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
This is what I do.
Right.
Don't worry about me. But I do worry about her because I'm walking down the street with her, and it's like a cartoon, like one of those old
Right.
cartoons, like Mr. Magoo. Like she almost gets hit by like 3
Yeah.
cars, and like people walking down the street, and
Yeah.
like she's bumping into stuff, and she doesn't realize all these people are jumping out of her way and stuff. And there's sometimes where I just have to like grab a hold of her to make sure.
Yeah.
And it's just, and sometimes she'll be on Instagram, and I'll be like, what the fuck?
You're gonna die for a post?
I've had the conversation once because I feel like I'm offering enlightenment, but it just feels like criticism to her. So I'm like, well, she'll figure it out just like I figured it out.
No, but you know what helps? Because I had a similar issue. It's when you say, as opposed to say you're always on social media, say we're always on social media. Let's fix this for us, because I have the same problem you have.
Oh, yeah?
And when because when
Good, because I felt like I was being a dick. Was I a dick?
Because I told I noticed the same thing with my wife sometimes when she just needs to just disconnect. And I get it, we disconnect with our phones, but then we don't realize how much energy that drains. So I would say, instead of criticizing her, when I would see her, I would really see myself. And I would say, hey, let's do this for us. You're not the problem. We are all the problem.
Yeah.
So let's get out of it together.
I was like, we should watch that Social Dilemma documentary. You got to see it.
Right.
And she was just like, is that a swipe against me? And it was, because I was stuck behind her on the stairs, and she was just like texting people, and I'm like, this.
Man, it's sad when you see like couples in restaurants dating.
Yeah.
Like they're.
I go out of my way.
You must see it all the time, right?
At work. So I get incredibly frustrated at work as a server, especially at like a nice place. The restaurant I work in is almost 100 years old, and there's original pictures of opera singers and stuff on the wall from the original owner in 1927. There's a lot of history.
Right.
It's a beautiful space. People come in all the time. The first thing they do is pull out their phone and take pictures. So I appreciate the space, and that's why I love the restaurant that I work in. But there are so many times, especially couples, because they've exhausted a lot of their conversation.
Yeah.
They come in and they won't look at the menu. They won't look at the drink menu. They'll just sit on their phones. And I have a rule now, because I've been doing this long enough, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it, to where I won't approach the table until you put your phone down.
Wow.
I will come up to the table, and if I say, because I always have the same spiel, welcome in. My name is Brennan. I'll be in charge of your service. Still sparkling or tap water to start. And if you are like, and I'm sorry. I always put the hand on the table so they see me. I go, I'm sorry.
They have a phone.
I go, I'm sorry. Still sparkling or tap? And they'll go, oh, I'm sorry. Tap's fine.
Yeah.
And then they go back to their phone. I will not go back to the table until they put
Yeah,
their
but you know
phone
what's the
down.
problem? You know what's driving me crazy now? Now the menus are on the phones.
Yeah,
Dude,
I hate that. I
Bro,
hate that. I
that
hate that.
is.
There's nothing
And
more.
then they want a 18 to 20 to 22% that they just shove on in your face with that
in front of you.
Right,
The
right.
ad, yeah.
For what?
Dude.
I just ordered my food.
Yeah.
Dude,
Like,
so the thing with the QRC
Yes.
or whatever,
Oh,
I want to
man.
punch that thing
I
in the
know.
face.
Hate it.
It's dirty.
I know.
It's way more dirty and disgusting than a menu
menu,
could ever
of
be.
course.
Yeah.
And it frustrates you if you know where it came from, and we might have forgotten by now, but it's from the early days of COVID, where we thought you could get COVID from touching
yeah.
surfaces. And now we know that's not how you get COVID. And we're not even worried about COVID anymore anyway. But somehow it's easier for the restaurants. And
Easier.
And so I find the fucking thing you get off the square
Right.
isn't even as good as sometimes, and you have to make it work. Nothing makes me feel more older and middle-aged than when that shit does not work for me. And so I just skip it and go straight to the menu on the fucking cell phone. Like, why am I doing this?
I ask for the menu.
Yeah.
I make a point to ask for them. And they always have a menu.
They have
do.
80 of them.
Yeah. And this is the thing. So I've been in restaurants for 20 years now. I started as a busser when I was 15, so 19 years. And I've been waiting tables since I was 18. And this is the thing that bugs the shit out of me. Is when people go, I'm more on board for tip wages than anything in the world. And this was my addict today, because there's so many times you go into a place where they make hourly and you get treated like garbage. Like you're not even there, especially in New York.
Yes.
And the thing that bothers me is I take my job, like all my jobs, incredibly seriously. My father used to say to me when I was a kid, and he still says it today, if you're going to do anything, doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're digging ditches or you're the president, be the fucking best at it. Mm-hmm. So I take my job very seriously. And so when you come in and sit down in my restaurant, I am the Sherpa. I am in charge of what's happening. You are a guest at my house.
Right.
So if you come in and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I like, this is what, okay, I will tailor it to you.
Yeah.
And that's why I expect the 20 to 25%, because I fucking earn it.
Yeah.
The thing that pisses me off so much, and this is my diner does this, that's near my new apartment. You scan it, you look at the menu, they come by, they just take the order, and then they walk away. No refills on water, no hey, I actually was thinking about adding on something. I got a sweet tooth, maybe I want a dessert.
Right.
And then when you're done eating, you wait about 5 minutes until they see you, and then they come and just drop the check. And I, as a server, get so... I'm like, this is not what we do. You are making all of us look bad.
And some places you got to get up and get your own forks.
Yeah, it's like you might as well just be a fucking kiosk, dude. I'm not tipping you.
Right.
And I go to bed. I've been ran through the ringer on social media talking shit about people who don't tip. And this is my thing to anybody who doesn't tip. Tell your server when you sit down. Yeah. That's all. That's all I want. Just tell them. Be honest. You know you're not going to, so just tell them. But that shit bugs me, because it's like when someone says, oh yeah, I wait tables too, it's like we are not the same.
Right.
Like what I do is an experience. What I do is something you're going to tell people about. Like, you have to try this restaurant. We went there and the server knew everything about everything, and he tailored the experience just to us.
Yeah.
What you're doing is you're a kiosk. You're a glorified kiosk.
It's
just move and let me put it in.
Yeah.
Just get out of the fucking way.
It's the equivalent of when you're a stand-up and you go somewhere for Thanksgiving and they're like, oh, you do stand-up in New York. My cousin does sketch in, he does improv. Yeah. No, he does an improv in New York. Do you know him? It's like, no, I ain't fucking know him. It's not my class.
We're not doing it yet. You're exactly right.
Was the ski lodge closed?
Right.
Is that why he's doing improv?
Oh,
God,
you just made me think of a really great tipping story. You guys know Will Sylvans? Obviously. So Will, man, had this beautiful story about I think he was with a group of friends, and I'm gonna try to remember this story properly, but I think they were just having a coffee and desserts, and the waiter was extremely rude, racist even, and at the end of the night, everyone was like, all right, let's just leave, let's not tip him. And then Will said, no, let's tip him $100. And then they're like, what, you're crazy? And then he tipped $100. And then they all left. And then the waiter just ran outside. And he's like, you left me like $100. And he's like, yeah, man. And then the guy just started crying. he's like, I got you.
No, you've been punked.
Right. No, but you're right. But he just had the opposite way of approaching, hate. Mm. He just hit him with more love. And I love that story, because he was like, I was having a bad day. I had to take it out. I can't believe it. I hate my job and this and that. And you tipped me $100, and he starts crying. And I thought, whoa, that's such a really, if you want to talk about working in opposition, that's and such a classy, and he's such a good dude, Will.
I love Will.
That's what Christianity is supposed to be about. That's what turn the other cheek is.
Yeah.
somebody's coming at you with some negativity and give them some love, which is the most difficult thing in the world to do.
Right.
Yeah. That Doug Stanhope has a thing about that. He's like, the ruder the waitress is to me, the more money I give her. He's like, she needs it.
Well, it probably turns him on.
Well, that's so that
Yeah, it does. No, he relates to that person.
Right.
That is something I will do if because, like I said, I mean, I don't mean to sound like cocky about it, but I know I'm good at my job.
Right.
I've done it for a long time. I've got my 10,000 hours. So I expect there's a certain expectation, which sometimes does bite me because we get a lot of tourists in here, and in Europe it's not customary to tip because the servers over there make a living wage.
Right.
That's what so tipping is almost seen as rude.
Yeah. Found that out the hard way.
And so, but if someone leaves me like an exorbitant amount, and I have some regulars that are very well known and they're famous. They're very famous people. And sometimes they'll just leave like 100% tip, or they'll leave like even more than that. And I always make sure to be to show my gratitude, because that's important. I think is the thing I can't stand the most is when I go to a nice restaurant and I always over tip because I'm a server. And even if the service isn't great, I still over tip. And for them just to be like, all right, thanks, man, and walk away, I'm like, you piece of shit. You know you didn't deserve that.
Right.
Why, give me a little thanks. Thanks, man.
Let's talk coffee tip.
Okay.
You guys drink coffee?
I
Yes.
do.
Okay, so when you have a cup of coffee, I'm not talking about an espresso or a macchiato or a cortado, just a cup of coffee. It's $2 or whatever it is, $4 now. Do you guys tip
It's
on a
$5.25
Right.
now.
Do you tip on a cup of coffee that they pour?
I'll tell
and
you.
take it to go, or do you? Because I personally, I'm not tipping for that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tip for if you're a barista and you make me like
You're making a coffee, yeah.
Then I will tip you. I'll tip you $1 for whatever, But if you're just like dripping and you expect me to turn that, you flip that screen on me for a 20% tip or a $1, whatever it is, or $2, sometimes $2. Just that's like double the price.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
My take on that is, unless it's a sit-down restaurant, if it's like a coffee shop, I usually don't tip. But I tip today. I tip today because...
But if you sit down...
Because
if I sit down, I'll tip. But if I don't...
It comes down to if I go up to a cash register, I don't feel like I have to tip. During the pandemic, I started getting generous, especially since I just had government money coming in anyway. I'm like, have some of it. I'm sure you need it too. Today I tip just because I still pay cash. It's how I work my budget.
Yep.
Is I take a certain amount of cash out, and then I don't fuck with my credit cards or my debit card. And today I just didn't feel like getting the 75 cents back, and I said, you take it.
Yep.
Right.
If I pay cash, I will tip the change. Because the other thing too is that a lot of people who don't work in this industry or those industries don't understand there's an entire pay scale difference. So minimum wage for me is way less than minimum wage for someone who works at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Like in the state of Florida, minimum wage for a server is like $5.25, and minimum wage for everyone else is like $10.
Right.
And it is because we get tipped. We expect to get tipped. So real quick, TIPS actually stands for to ensure prompt service.
Yeah.
And it was something that was started in the 1800s by businessmen in America.
That's cool.
They would pay you before the meal to make sure that the business deal went well and they had great service. And over time, it's evolved into what it is now.
Yeah.
So if it is a place where they get paid hourly, like a Starbucks or like a whatever, they're getting paid by the hour. The tips are just extra on top of that.
Yeah.
I will, if I pay cash and have loose change, because I don't like to carry loose change, I will throw the change in the thing.
Yeah.
If I pay with a card, I am not tipping. Because I don't...
Even if he's making or she's making
for the drip situation, I won't tip. If they're making something, I always will like leave $1 or $2. But I have a hard stance on that, just because it's one of those things where, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, where it's like we're not the same. Like what I do is not what you're doing.
Also, you're going to a restaurant that's not a sit-down restaurant because you do want a cheaper cup
experience.
Of coffee.
Yeah.
And that's why you're there in the first place.
And that's why you're not getting that kind of service. And that goes back to the whole thing I was going to say about the was I a dick was I was trying to be more New York because I was like, I'm getting tired of going to like CVS or Rite Aid or Duane Reade and everyone ignoring me when I need something,
right?
And then asking them to open up one of the things because everything is locked, and them rolling their eyes like it's a huge to do,
right?
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be more New York. I'm going to be like, hey, you don't got the fucking time, then fuck up. Like, I was like, I'm tired of getting walked on.
Right.
When all I want to do is just get some detergent and go home.
Yeah.
And it's taking me 22 minutes.
Right.
So I went to the Rite Aid right outside my apartment, and I asked the guy to unlock something, and he said, okay, no problem. And then, like, went back to, like, opening the trash bag and changing out the trashes. And there was a language disconnect, so I was like, oh, maybe he didn't understand me. So I was like, can I get that? And he goes, yeah, I'll be right there. And then just like 3 or 4 minutes, and I just went to the checkout and got the thing that I did have. I just checked it out.
Yeah.
And then he came up to me as I was getting ready to leave. He goes, okay, I can go unlock that now. And I was like, no. And as soon as I went, no, everyone who worked there, their faces shot up like, who the fuck do you think you are? And I was like, I was purposely trying to be a dick because I'm so over just getting bad service.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they all looked at me like, you better not do what we think you're going to do and start talking.
Yeah.
And so I just turned around and walked out. But it's like, I'm just fucking sick of bad customer. Like, tip if we want to do this, if we want to play this game, make everybody work on tip. Make everybody get paid $5 an hour, and you have to earn your money.
Right.
Your McDonald's experience would be way different. I can tell you that.
I went to. Everyone hates asking to get the deodorant out because you're already paying $18 for a stick of deodorant, and you have to go, and that's why it's under a case because it's expensive and you can pocket it. I rang the buzzer at a Rite Aid. And this dude walks up to me. He's like, "Yo, what you want?" And he didn't have anything that said Rite Aid on it, And I'm like, "Are you here to help me?" Because I didn't even want to assume. I was like, "You work here? Like, what the fuck?"
He's just gonna smash and grab. What do you want? I'm gonna get some of it too.
I'm gonna hook you up. I don't know if you guys know Sebastian, the comics, Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yeah. But
he's got this bit. I don't know. He probably doesn't do it anymore. He's like, "Have you been to Rite Aid? One guy works at Rite Aid." There's always one guy like working at the ice cream station.
Yeah.
And they're over it over there. They don't give a
It's crazy.
Well, they're dealing with robbery every day.
Yeah. And I totally get it, but it's like when my manager, my very first job was at McDonald's, getting paid hourly, and it was so long ago. Like I was getting the good price because I worked the super early morning shift, so they bumped my pay by like 50 cents. So I was getting like $6 an hour, which back then I was like, fuck yeah,
you were loving it.
And and even when I worked there, the managers would make fun of me because it's McDonald's, but people would come through the drive-thru and I'd go, "Good morning. Welcome to McDonald's. What can I get for you today?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "What do you like? Just take the order." Like,
they're going to buy the hamburger.
Yeah. Like,
they're
what are
already
you
in
doing?
line. Yeah.
And that's just been my mentality. Like when I go into a place and I just see people kind of do, I'm like, sense of urgency, spatial awareness. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, come on, let's go. And it's just so bizarre to me and I understand it's a shitty pay, it's a shitty job, you're dealing with all this stuff, but it's like goes back to what we talked about earlier. And for all the listeners, your mentality affects your day.
Yeah, and I'm here to tell you,
you spread out.
Yeah, go in happy. Hey, how can I help you? And you'd be shocked how much politer people are when you ask them. Like, and I know from personal experience, when I go to a table like Valentine's Day, it's 11 o'clock. I'd been there since 2:30. I'm fucking pissed off. I'm over it.
Yeah.
We closed at 11. Why are you getting sat at 11? This doesn't make any sense. And I went up to a couple of tables like, "How you doing tonight?" Because I was kind of over it.
Yeah.
And I immediately, their response, I was like, "You're better than this, Brennan. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't be that person."
Yeah.
And I immediately, obviously, changed the ad. Like, the very next time, I was like, "So, are we going to get something to drink? What are we doing?"
Right.
Dude, that's what I hate about baristas in New York. Like, none of them smile. They're just so cool. They're not smiling.
Yeah.
They listen to the Pixies. It's like, just give me a smirk. Just acknowledge me.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so whack.
I'd like to preface this whole conversation, which I was a shitty employee. And I mean, I regret it now that I'm older and I know that I was one of these people who were shitty.
You're one of them.
But now I've graduated
Now you know.
Yeah.
and evolved into knowing that, like, no matter how, you got to do your job well. Like Brennan, I would be so much further in life if I approached it like Brennan. But at the same time, and I was one of these people. The worst place. You think New York is bad? The absolute worst place, and I'm borrowing from Adam Carolla here a little bit, is Los Angeles, because nobody is doing the job they want to do. Nobody.
Yeah,
Everybody
right.
thinks they're a movie star.
Yeah.
A music star.
Yep.
Right.
I don't belong here. You don't understand.
Yeah.
I'm better than lots.
You don't get it, man.
You should hear me shred on the fucking guitar.
Right.
This is ridiculous.
Right.
When is someone going to step in and bring me my karma?
Right.
You know.
That's the great thing about New York as far as food, and this is why it's one of the food cuisine capitals of the world, is because people come here to be career servers.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it before, like the amount of money that you can make in nice restaurants. And that's the thing I love about it is it's competition at its core. It's the best thing I think in life to bring out the best in others is that if you want a job at one of these super swanky places, you better bring it. Like, let's go. Like, it's time to shine.
There's competition.
Oh, the immense amounts of competition.
Yeah.
I told you guys I work 4 days a week, and I've never once worried about how I'm going to pay rent. And I know comics that are doing the open mic thing and like produce shows and stuff, working 2 jobs at minimum wage, and they're struggling every month. But that's, again, it goes back to the thing where it's like you need to earn it. And in New York, you can be a career server, which is why you go to those nicer places. And a lot of times, man, they're fucking on it.
Oh,
and
my God.
I love it. Because they didn't come here to be an actor. They didn't come here to do music. They're not going to be famous. You know what they came here to be? The best server you've ever seen in your goddamn life and make 6 figures doing it.
Yeah, man.
I love it.
That's a great experience.
Yeah.
I was shitting on Los Angeles, but then you go to Beverly Hills at one of those nice restaurants.
Oh, yeah, those Michelin restaurants.
Like, you're just like, oh, my God, can you drive me home, too? This is amazing.
Yeah, and there's a coffee shop in Astoria that's called Balancero. It's like it's so tiny, it's so narrow. It fits maybe 5 people, but there's always 10 people inside. And I remember just the first time I went there, it was tiny, and it's owned by 2 guys, Zoki and Shane, Serbian guys, and really I just walked in. I was like, what is this place? And they said, we serve coffee. And they had me sit down. They offered me an espresso, a double espresso, and they offered me like a donut. And I said, I just sat down. I sat down with them for an hour. They said, we don't want your money. We just want, we just want you to get to know us. Uh-huh. And they were rated top 10 coffee shops in New York City, this small, tiny place in Astoria.
There's a lot of coffee shops.
And they're reviewed. I think there's like over 500 reviews on these guys. And just the level of love, of care, of hospitality, they like when they ask, how are you? They want to know, how are you? And that's why everyone hangs out there.
Right.
It's like become like a community of all these historians gather at different points of the day, different times of the day, and we all kind of know each other because we all hang out at Balancero. And
the power of how are you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
And that's also why we give out a free podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We're just trying to get to know you.
That is the thing, though, is you can either be the place where, we ate there one time a couple years ago, or you can be the place where it's, where we went for our, 15th anniversary? It was the best.
You can be
this awesome, you know what I mean? It's an experience.
You can be one of those annoying couples going, oh my God, you guys have to try.
Right.
The service, the bread. The bread.
The bread.
Even the bread. I can live off the bread.
That's why. But that's
olive
why
oil and bread.
There's so many people, famous, unfamous, celebrity.
Ask for Brendan.
There's so many of those people that live in this city, and there's so many restaurants. But there's a reason why, like at my restaurant or at like other ones I'm sure around the city, that we have the regulars we have. Because you do it, like you're saying with Balancero, you do it and you fucking do it right. And some of those people that live around there will not go anywhere else for their coffee until they move out of Astoria.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And that pays 1,000 times full.
Absolutely.
And now people are coming from out of Astoria because they've heard of it on the internet. It's insane. People go out of their way just to get good coffee and just good service. Just smile. Just smile.
Businesses need to be more like drug dealers.
Yes.
First one's free. And I'm going to chat with you. Mm-hmm. I might even play you my demo tape.
Right. Bookers should be smiling more.
Bookers are cocks.
It's astounding that
by nature.
There's
no nice booker.
You can work in a place where
there are some nice. We know some nice bookers. We know.
I'm cutting it all out anyway. Who needs it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's just crazy. You could work in a place where laughter is literally your business and be so miserable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's like what's wrong, man? What's wrong?
It's funny because we were supposed to talk about our top 5, but I don't think we'll get to it. But
Well, we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah. But just to let the listeners know that, because we mentioned it, so we'll bring that up the next time.
It's really time to go, but you actually touched on something. We touched on two books. One was The War of Art, where I talked about like getting my work done, and that brought me joy. And keeping the apartment clean is the only way to get work done.
Yep.
But also, I read a book that really helped me out when I was stressed called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff About Money. And it sounds like he borrowed something from your guy, which is pay yourself first. And I've been doing that for 10 years, and I usually have to just grab it right back at the end of the month. But at least it accumulates for bills.
Yeah.
Or it could be vacation money.
I just love that mentality. And I can't believe it took me till I was almost 40 to start doing that. My parents are so good with money, and they didn't bother with, hey, put 10% away.
Yeah.
You know, this book I read did that. I always figured, well, I'll get paid when it's an American mentality. I'll have a big bank account when I'm making a lot of money.
When I sell the show, I'm fine.
But if I would have put 1% away and never touched it, even versus my credit cards, since the time I started working, I would have so much retirement money right now, and I got jack shit.
Dude, I'm teaching my son. I'm telling him everything you get, everything, birthdays or Christmas.
Yeah.
Don't ever touch it, and you'll buy a house by the time you're 20. You know,
That's great.
And
advice.
I wish someone told me that. I wish someone told me just like never, ever touch that.
That's
money.
all school should be.
Yeah,
right.
It should be how the bank works. And don't charge anything on your credit card. They should tell you that 8 hours a day, over and over and over again, Clockwork Orange style.
Because I come from a family where it's perception is reality.
Sure.
So if people think you're doing good, you're doing good, baby.
Yeah.
Who cares what the bank statement says?
Right. Yeah. I come from a family where perception is not reality. My dad's got plenty of money. He's never bought a new car. That's how he saves his money.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
smart.
I know.
That's so smart.
That's why I wear the same clothes every day. And fuck YouTube. Thanks for listening to The Power of How. Follow us on all the social medias as much as we hate it. What is it? The Power of How Podcast.
The Power of How Podcast on Instagram, The Power of How Podcast on YouTube, and then on Twitter, it's just Power of How.
And pledge on Patreon. I don't know where you're going to find that yet, but
The Power of How Podcast on Patreon.
Pledge on Patreon. Oh, do we have a Patreon yet?
We do now.
Nice.
Okay, good thinking. Good thinking.
Pledge.
All
Let's
right.
smile. Let's smile for them. Let's pledge.
And we're going to put 10% of that away every month. We'll have our own little bank account,
There we
fellas.
go. Hey.
All right. See you later.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.